I'm ready.
Ah! His eye! What is that?
Well, looks like I get to see the shutting gun in action.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, back at it again with another Minecraft video, and today we're gonna take a look at how I got accepted to Stanford. For those of you who don't know, I currently attend Stanford University, and this year I am a freshman. You know, ever since that fated day when I got my acceptance letter, I always wondered to myself, why? Today we're gonna answer that question. So in my hands right here is my Stanford admissions file. It's actually just an empty manila folder, but we'll pretend there's stuff in here. So in addition to my actual application, which I filled out nearly a year ago at this point, my admissions file has ratings and comments from my interviewer, as well as ratings and comments from my 2 application readers. Basically, this has all the answers as to how I got accepted into Stanford in the first place. Before we dive in and see what this is all about, I'll explain how I first got my hands on this. Again, this is just an empty folder that I'm using as a prop for this video. To my understanding, you can request access to your admissions file as a student at a number of different universities, but I'll explain the process for Stanford because that's the school that I attend, at least virtually. The first step is to actually make the request to go see your admissions file. So I had to make a FERPA request through the Registrar's Office for Student Affairs. FERPA stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and essentially, under FERPA, a student is allowed to access their records for the school that they attend, which is what I did by making that request. So back in the before times, students would typically go to the office and read through their files while a person watches over them to make sure that they're not up to any funny business, I guess. I wouldn't really know though because I'm still at home. Since I am not currently on campus, I actually had a Zoom call with someone from the office who read my admissions file to me. While you're accessing your admissions file, you're not actually allowed to have any electronics with you, and you're only allowed to take paper notes, and this is the same whether you're in person or virtual. You're also only allotted a 20-minute time slot to view your admissions file, whether you're in person or virtual. So it was definitely a challenge to listen and write as much as I can at the same time so that I could, take as many notes as I could. I've also heard from other students that information on your admissions file gets blacked out and redacted over time. So there could be some information on my admissions file that I just do not have access to because it's blacked out already. But again, I wouldn't really know because I had my admissions file read to me. But in any case, in my hands, I have all the notes that I was able to take in that 20-minute time slot. So let's take a look through it and see what was going on in their minds when they decided to accept me. Alright, let's get on with it. So my first page of notes consists largely of more biographical information like my name, my gender, my ethnicity, where I live, where I went to school, the majors I applied as, that kind of stuff. I also have my GPA written down, and next to it is SU6, followed by another number that I unfortunately didn't get down. From what I've heard other students speculate, this SU6 could refer to another kind of GPA that Stanford recalculates for students when looking at their applications. But again, I don't know what my SU6 was because I couldn't write down fast enough. Unfortunately, I still haven't mastered the shouting gun yet. Next, I have rigor, which says MD, and most students agree that MD means most demanding. And this essentially means that I took the most demanding classes I could in high school. Next, I have written down DIV, which could mean diversity. There weren't any numbers or anything else written next to it, so I don't really have much to go off of for this. I also have my SAT scores, subject test scores, and AP scores. Something I thought was really interesting was that on my first page of notes, I had written down Korea Nisley Y. Again, since I had my admissions file read to me, I don't know what the actual format of my admissions file looked like, but the fact that Nisley Y was one of the first things that popped up is definitely really interesting. It could mean that they thought this would be something that could help my application, but again, that's just pure speculation. I just think the placement of where they made that reference to Nisley Y is really interesting. Moving along to my second page of notes, this is where I have written down the stuff that my interviewer and application reader said. My understanding is that at Stanford, all applicants get at least 2 application readers, sometimes 3, and they rate you on a number of different factors. And then afterwards, your application is sent to a full committee for a final vote, where they decide whether they want to accept you, waitlist you, or reject you. So I'll read you guys the ratings that my application readers gave me. Alright, so I have RTG, which is a 1. My understanding is that RTG refers to your testing, so your various test scores. And I would think that I got a score of 1 because I scored highly on the SAT. I only have one number for RTG, but for the other factors, I have my scores separated by Reader 1 and Reader 2. For Reader 1, I have HSR with a score of 3. From what I've read online, there seems to be a pretty general consensus that HSR stands for high school rigor, which looks at things like class size and your school's reputation. So I suppose I got a rating of 3 for HSR because I didn't go to a particularly well-known or high-ranking school. You know, it was just a normal public high school. Then I have SUP with a rating of 3. SUP probably stands for support, which essentially looks at your letters of recommendation. Then I have EC with a rating of 3. EC basically just looks at your extracurricular activities. Then I have SPIV with a rating of 3. From what I've read online, SPIV probably refers to self-presentation and intellectual vitality. So I would guess that SPIV is looking at your character as a student and as a person in general. Then I have an overall evaluation rating of 2-. And for my second reader, I had the same ratings for HSR, SUP, EC, and SPIV. But for my overall evaluation, I had a 3+. And next to my overall evaluation rating for my second reader, it says R2/R3. So that could mean that there was potentially a third reader who took a look at my application. As far as I understand it, most applications get 2 people to read through it before it's sent to a full committee vote. So I'm not exactly sure why there was a potential third reader for my application. Something I'm curious about is that both of my application readers gave me the same scores for HSR, SUP, EC, and SPIV, but their overall evaluation ratings were slightly different. So I'm wondering what made the difference there. Perhaps I'll never know. And as for what these numbers mean, from what I've read online, 1 means the best and 5 means the least best. And since my readers gave me overall evaluation ratings of 2- and 3+, I would say that I was probably, average, middle of the road when it comes to their accepted applicants. But it's not exactly clear what their exact rating distribution is, so that's just a guess on my part. Next, I have some notes from my interviewer. I know that not all applicants to Stanford get an interview, especially if you live in California. But since I don't live in California, I was fortunate enough to have an interview. So like my application readers, my interviewer also gave me ratings on a number of different factors. For intellectual vitality, I got a 3. For depth and commitment, I got a 2. And for character and self-presentation, I got a 3. I've read that for interviews, these ratings are done on a 1 to 6 scale, with 1 being the best and 6 being the least best. And scores of 1, 2, and 3 are generally what you want to strive for. So it seems like I had a pretty good interview overall, at least from the perspective of my interviewer. I actually don't remember too much of my Stanford interview myself, but that's probably because it was such a stressful situation. My interviewer wrote down notes about all of the things that we talked about, most of which were about different activities that I had done throughout high school. We also spent a lot of time talking about Nisley and my interest in languages in general, so there are a lot of notes about that. From what I was able to write down, my interviewer didn't really have anything negative to say about me. As a sort of summary of our conversation, I guess, my interviewer wrote that I had a well-rounded narrative and that they could see that I pursued excellence at all things that I was involved with. So I'd say that overall my interview was pretty solid. I have no idea exactly how much the interview plays into admissions, but in any case, I would say that it was a push in my favor. Alright, so now I have some comments from my first application reader. First, they restate some of my testing stuff as well as the ratings that I read off earlier. I also wrote down Filipino parents. I have no idea what the context for that is because I was trying to write as I listened, which didn't work out too well, but Filipino parents. They also just listed some of my extracurricular activities. Got Nisley Y, got Quiz Bowl C, History Bowl C, Cross Country C. I have no idea what the C means, but it's there. Very cool. C for cool, perhaps. Also have SPIV, CAPE, which I'm pretty sure is my Common App personal essay. I actually wasn't able to write down that many notes for this, but from what I remember, my first application reader thought that my Common App essay was okay. And for IVE, which I'm pretty sure is my intellectual vitality essay, they said that I had nice synthesis. They also wrote WM. I'm not exactly sure what WM stands for, but next to it, it says Family Game Night, so I'm assuming it was my essay about Family Game Night. And for that essay, my reader wrote that it was just fine. I also have a summary from my first application reader. They wrote, not jumping off the page, on the fence. This is a tough one. But they also wrote that my intended major leans in my favor and the different parts of my application come together and keep me in the running. Phew.
Okay. Oh, phew.
Alright, next we have my last page of notes, which is the notes from my second application reader. For my second reader, I have a lot fewer comments compared to my first reader. My understanding is that the second reader also sees the comments from the first reader, so it's possible that there are fewer comments because the second reader agrees with what the first reader said and just didn't want to write it down to be redundant. But again, that is just my speculation. So for my second reader, they also have my ratings once again. And for my essays, there aren't really any comments about them. They said that my personal essay was about identity and that my intellectual vitality essay was about storytelling and language appreciation. So their comments there were more just summarizing what my essays were about. But for my extracurricular essay, this reader said that it was standard but showed that I was a good leader. And at the bottom, they wrote that my POE was unsure. I have no idea what POE stands for. It could mean something like point of entry. So POE unsure means that there wasn't a clear reason for me to be accepted. But once again, that is just my speculation. After that, the rest of my admissions file just consisted of my actual application, as in the application that I sent in to Stanford back when I was applying. And I don't think I need to take any notes on those. So in conclusion, I still have no idea how I got in. It didn't really seem like either of my application readers were super eager to have me accepted, so something must have happened between the time that they read it and the time that the committee had the final vote. What exactly was it that made them want to vote in my favor? I'll probably never know. But you know, that's okay. It doesn't matter if they weren't super excited for me, and it doesn't matter if they were on the fence about me. Someone had to fight to get me into the school. Someone had to fight for me to have a spot in this class. And that means that they saw something, whatever that something may have been. Imposter syndrome aside, somebody believed that I belong here at this school, even if I didn't necessarily believe in myself at the time. There was somebody in the admissions office that believed in me, and I am here now, and that's what counts. And that's about all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed tagging along as I took a look through my Stanford admissions file. Since you're watching a video about college-related stuff, perhaps you'll be interested in watching some more college application related stuff on my second channel. If you enjoyed, feel free to drop a like and hit subscribe for more content like this. And that's all for today, folks. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.